Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, and today I'm joined by Andrew White, CEO of Contexta 360. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm great, Charlie. Thanks for having us today.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have you here. We've got a very interesting topic to talk about. Speech analytics. It feels like we've been talking about this technology forever, but now it's really starting to make some ground in the contact center, and there's 10 excellent use cases that we have to discuss. The first one on my list, which I'm going to ask you about, is automating quality scorecards. So can you tell me a little bit about how speech analytics can do that?
Yeah, sure. And this is clearly a core initiative because we want to make sure that the quality of service that we deliver to our customers is as high as it can be, not only through the human to human channels, but also the automation to customer interactions. And speech and indeed chat analytics is being used to kind of remove the randomness, the needle in the haystack process that is used in manual QM processes. There's still very much a need for QM, but the process of picking random calls, trying to hope you find some development items is clearly not effective, very, very costly, and actually you don't always find what you're looking for. You might be looking for, are salutations correct, questioning techniques, listening techniques, empathy, skills, and process. So speech and chat and text analytics is being used to automatically find these issues and empower organizations to set very simple thresholds to find the things that matter to you, remove that random process and remove the workload so that you go straight to the calls that matter.
Yeah, it's a fascinating use case, and I think it links in next very well actually with our next use case of measuring sentiment analysis, because you can almost kind of pick calls based on how the customer or the employee was feeling. But tell me about a bit more generally about how speech analytics can help to measure customer emotions.
Yeah, and I guess sentiment is a really great indicator of kind of the health of the interaction between client and provider. And if you think about how we do this, how we've done this in the past, we've done agent-based drop down. Was that good, bad, indifferent, or it's an independent survey that goes out to the customer either via at the end of the call or via a text message or many ways. But of course, these are all again that you're back into sample land. You're not sampling every single call, or it's not standardized. And look, we're all different. All customers are different. All agents are different. So we've got to kind of remove that emotion that I might score 5 and Charlie might score 7 and vice versa. Remove the emotion, remove the sample, analyze everything again, whether it's a chat session or a voice session or a video session or indeed email, and use classical analysis of what was said, unpack those words and phrases and link that to sentiment scores. And that's transforming and sort of an index of how an organization is performing to customer sentiment metrics.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and actually, again, it links in very well with the next use case that we've isolated of monitoring agent well-being. I think bringing sentiment into that as well is a fascinating use case. Could you tell me a little bit more about how speech analytics can monitor agent well-being?
This is key. I mean, we all know that our people are critical to us, and still dealing with the majority of the volume of interactions, particularly more complex interactions. Resourcing is increasingly difficult, so we need to make sure. And actually, well-being is actually good because if we've got happy supervisors and agents, you're typically going to get happy customers at the end of that. So creating the right environment. So it's important that we measure it. And I think another dynamic that's hitting us is that workload's going up. So much more is done over the phone. Home working has gone up, which brings another range of challenges like technology challenges and actually being part of an ecosystem where you can see what's going on. You can see what's going on. We're also in a space where change is happening very, very frequently. It could be product changes, process changes, compliancy changes. So again, what we're looking to do is to monitor those frustrations that could be, I don't have the right knowledge, I don't understand the processes, I'm struggling with the technology. And a lot of the work that we see these days is actually analyzing the conversations for, I'm sorry, this network is really poor today, or my computer's down. And make sure that the environment that we deliver to our teams is the best it can be. Make sure it's kind of linked with quality monitoring as well. Make sure they've got the right product knowledge, the right process knowledge, to give them all of the tools we possibly can, but extract that from the conversations.
Yeah. It's a really interesting topic, and the whole theme of remote agent management is so big at the moment, and the huge difference that speech analytics can possibly make is just such a fascinating area. And kind of on the topic of supporting agents, there is the kind of another use case of automating ticket tagging to kind of reduce after call work and rep time. Can you tell me a little bit about how this use case works?
Yeah, there's kind of two problems we find in the work that we do. Is clients look at the beginning of the day or beginning of the week, they've probably got fairly good call classifications. It was a X, Y, and Z call, and the drop down menus are inputted correctly. But as you go through the day or through the week, the quality of that erodes, or in fact the categorizations just aren't granular enough. So agents are forced into free text fields and so on. And we also find regularly that if calls are this long, there's equal amount of work after the call to actually write up what were the questions, what were the actions, what were the topics discussed, were the topics well categorized, do they fall into logical buckets that are in the system of record. So we're doing two things really in speech analytics. Number one, we're doing topic detection, and there's really two areas there. One is known topics, and that's most organizations know what their known topics are, and making sure that the categorizations are correct. But the other interesting area is unknown topics, so unsupervised topics, where we're using, across 1 million calls or 5 million chat sessions, what topics are bubbling up that we don't know about, and how do we categorize those? And then the second area is auto summarization to try and remove some of the workload. So the kind of things we will do is from a 5-10 minute conversation, we will process those conversations to extract what were the questions, what was the intent, what were the actions, what were the topics, and actually summarize that into a paragraph so that we can inject that into the system of record, which is far more valuable than a complete 10-minute conversation, which is difficult to extract the conversations from.
Yeah, it's such a valuable use case because in contact centers, I know a lot of contact centers struggle with getting disposition data right. And if you can just automate that and make it way more accurate, I mean, the benefits that brings to kind of not only kind of agent experiences, but as you kind of were talking about through topic detection in terms of the kind of customer journey management. I mean, it's just amazing. And kind of taking a step back as well, kind of from kind of the agent experiences in the contact center. I know this use case of analyzing the success of automated channels is one you're really excited about. Can you just tell us a little bit about that one too?
Absolutely. I mean, clearly we're going more to a digital first, whether it's engineered to save the company money or to improve the customer experience, or options of convenience, if you like, self-service automation services, but a lot of them fail. And you don't always see that. So it's important that you measure what's going on with your automation channels. And I think most organizations sort of measure the metadata. This is kind of the CDR records of what calls were transferred out of an automated channel into a human channel. you can actually measure the conversations between a chatbot or a voice bot, an IVA, and the customer. You can do that. And ultimately, if it does break out, you can actually start analyzing the human to human conversations. So measuring the success of your automated channels is critical.
Yeah, I think it's just a fascinating use case, especially as brands. This digital revolution is happening, and brands are starting to kind of experiment with these technologies to be able to kind of track them as they develop them. It could potentially be so beneficial. And kind of on the theme of kind of, you mentioned the automated channel example of kind of virtual agents and chatbots. How can speech analytics help to enhance their performance?
Well, if we can measure, so for example, if we can measure a automated channel, you're getting exactly the same insights that you're getting between a human and a human. So we're making sure we understand the question, we've got good answers, and we're analyzing the whole conversation for first contact resolution, customer effort scores, customer friction scores, things like that between a bot and a human. And of course, a lot of these bots and IVAs aren't really interested in reporting on failure. They're only interested in reporting on the successes. So we kind of act as the police force to make sure that they are performing. But the other area that we're seeing actually a lot more value is there's a very high failure rate of automation. Sometimes it's known, but in many cases it's not known. It's just kind of hidden in the metadata, and customers kind of quit and reconnect, and they force a human to human interaction. So the company doesn't actually know that there was a failure until you analyze the conversation between a human and a human. And we extract things like, I tried to use your automated system, it didn't work, so I'm glad I got through to you. We're extracting all of those insights, linking them to topics or broken processes or customer effort and customer friction elements to build this feedback loop, almost like an orchestrated feedback loop of what do we learn in the human to human channels that are related to automated interactions to update the knowledge or the process to improve the automated service in the first place.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And kind of, you mentioned there about how it can almost speech analytics can be used to kind of to spot broken processes, and that links in very well with our next use case of kind of pinpointing customer journey pain points. I mean, aside from just kind of automated channels, which obviously is a huge consideration for contact centers now, taking kind of a wider perspective, how can speech analytics help to spot those customer journey pain points?
Yeah, this is a massive area of work that we do, and it's somewhat linked to topics like topic detection, for example. If you know your topics, it's a credit card issue or it's a cancellation issue, or known things or defined things are easy to track, and they're typically well mapped into your system of record. You've got drop down fields. Oh, this is a new customer, or this is a cancellation, or it's when things go outside of that, and you can't pre-think all the permutations of all the things that can go wrong. So we do a lot of work on things like there's a lot of work going on at the moment with organizations that have front office and back office work, and there's big disconnects that the front office are doing something with a customer, but when it's handed off to the back office to process the order or the transaction, they then come back and say, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. And we track all of those kind of things from those conversations. We can track things like customer effort scores and customer friction scores when we're extracting this was a difficult journey. The customer had to go through certain steps to get what they wanted. So it might be missing knowledge, it might be missing processes or broken processes, and they're the things that we extract. And typically we help organizations find things that they don't know about. Typically the processes and the knowledge and the things they do know about, they get those pretty nailed. It's the things they don't know about that we bring to the surface, and that's where speech and chat analytics can actually help you identify those.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's another fascinating use case. And It links in very well to our next use case as well, of kind of bolstering customer feedback initiatives. Obviously, you've given a few examples there. Yeah, I don't know how else a speech analytics system can really help to kind of improve a contact center's approach to voice of the customer.
Yeah. So, we're all using different mechanisms to sort of score customer feedback. And I suppose the first thing is, do we want to know that to sort of score the feedback, or are we interested in improving? And most cases it's both. We don't just want to score it, we want to learn so that we can constantly improve. And a lot of the processes that we use, we may be taking manual surveys or automated SMS surveys, or we may be looking at other metadata from web clickstream and form conversions. And really, it's a combination of all of the above. But of course, a lot of it is, again, it's emotional. We're only capturing, in surveys, we all know that, the top 10% and the bottom 10% is delighted and really frustrated. You get responses, but the 80 you don't. So with conversational analytics, because it could be in any channel, we're actually understanding the conversation, looking at the words and the phrases and the topics in the NL, the natural language understanding of why did the customer call, how did we respond, and actually start building some scoring metrics in there so that it's standardized, it's unemotional, and it's covering 100% of all conversations. And you may be able to use that independently, or you may want to use it to sort of make sure that your other survey mechanisms and your other feedback mechanisms are actually giving a constant kind of response. So you can check channel 1 of surveys and feedback to channel 2 of surveys and feedback, and that's very powerful because it's covering 100% of all interactions.
Yeah, it's incredibly useful, not only for the call center, this example as well, but for the wider customer experience, and how other kind of departments can kind of harness these insights and kind of use them to generate better customer experiences. And kind of that logic also applies to our next use case of predicting customer behavior. Can you tell us a little bit about how speech analytics enables that?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, probably more forward-looking. And once we've got this foundation of understanding customer experience scores, customer effort scores, customer friction scores, CSAT, we've got independent indicators of how we're doing on the interaction between the company and our clients. So now we start thinking about, okay, how can we improve sales? How can we mitigate risk and churn? How can we deal with predicting complaints or making sure brand impact or brand management is well governed? So we're doing things like in churn management, analyzing particular, across millions of calls, are there indicators that we can connect? When this type of conversation happens, we see that there's a pattern that moves towards churn or cancellation 1 month, 2 months, 3 months later. And I don't mean the obvious ones, I'm unhappy, I'm going to look for another solution. That's obvious. It's the non-obvious ones, a bit like unsupervised topic detection, where we're looking at patterns and linking those to transactional events that happen later on, which helps us in prediction. The same with brand management. We're helping some very large brands that used to do a lot of brand management manually. They used to do sample calls, employ literally tens of people to listen to recordings. We're now managing that 100% automated across all channels and looking at, are these brand impacts, affecting the customer, and how do we use that in predicting customer behavior?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can take it. I really like that idea of kind of customer churn there, because if you can figure out patterns and where a customer is likely to churn, just if you can match that with something like a proactive strategy, I mean, the value that gives to customer retention strategies is just, yeah, exactly. It's huge. And kind of moving on now to our final use case of democratizing customer information. I think this, again, has very big implications for the entire enterprise, not just the contact center. Could you tell me a little bit about this use case?
Yeah, this is more a generic where, look, this area is not new. This has been around for a long, long time. But I actually felt that it was a little bit elitist. It was a little bit centralized, and we had one conversation with a very large company in Europe where they were describing how they got information, and the contact center teams, the operational teams, broken into 20 different groups. They put a request in for a particular type of information that went into the data science team, who would pull the recordings, get them transcribed, then apply some artificial intelligence to extract meanings and topics and so on, and then turn that into a report. And 7 days later, they would get their answers. And they said to me, look, 9 times out of 10, it's wrong. So you go through the whole loop again. So the issue is, we've got to get this information and this power and this openness into the people that are actually dealing with our customers. And that's typically the team leads that are running desks of 10 or 20 staff, and they need to have this visibility. And what we're seeing is the data science teams and the analytics teams are doing more complex work and linking transactional data with conversational data for real strategic insights. But the operational work of the day-to-day, we've got to empower the team leads to have these dashboards, to actually build their own queries, just like you would do a Google search. Give me all of the calls in this date, in this group, and I'm looking for these metrics, and pull those dashboards, build those dashboards within minutes, and get the information across millions of calls and chat sessions, so that you can actually improve the customer service and the sales opportunity, the service opportunity, or the support opportunity, depending on what your role is. So really, it's all about getting away from complex, high professional services and expensive, and move towards iPhone-centric ease of use. It's now easy, it's now open, it's now democratized.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, and again, I keep using the word fascinating, but it's really incredible to me how far this kind of technology has come in the last few years. I mean, the use cases we've discussed today, I mean, all from kind of so many, they're so different, from kind of automating performance management to analyzing virtual agents to democratizing information. It really kind of shows how many benefits this technology can bring across the enterprise. But I think that's a really great way to end today's conversation. Thank you very much, Andrew White, for joining me.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. Great to be here, and we'll see you again soon.
Excellent. Thanks for watching, everyone.